On this week's Gridiron Report, we have just over a week from the NBA draft. We have some Detroit Tigers updates, and then we wrap up with some best things at a ballpark, Mount Rushmore, and some U.S. Open recap. So let's get into it.
In the heart of the city where the lights grow dim, grit and grind every inch, every rim, from the underdogs rising to the legends that win. It's the Gridiron Report, let the games begin. Every highlight's a journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retire, Gridiron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on blast, beats thundering loud, champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The Gridiron Report.
Welcome to the Gridiron Report, your Lions First All Detroit Sports podcast, presented by Mic Drop Studios. Today is Wednesday, June 18th, and it's my favorite time of the year, draft prepping. It really, honestly, to me, doesn't matter what sort of draft, what sport draft we're prepping for. The draft prepping is my favorite, whether we're talking NFL, NBA, even MLB, I don't care. I'm eating up all the prospect, all the options there. This one, obviously, talking about the NBA, the Detroit Pistons drafting next Wednesday, I believe. So let's just start breaking down the NBA draft. Even though the Pistons don't really have that much to talk about, let's start talking about the NBA draft for the Pistons.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, I mean this is really cool because, you know, and just speaking candidly to the listeners, I'm not going to be like playing dumb for any of these guys that Tyler is going to break down. I actually just have like hand up not done like any research into the second round of the draft just because I don't know. I look at the statistics and like, you know, most of these guys aren't even making the team, or if they do, they're going to be in the G League. So I don't necessarily get out of bed for this, but I love that you do, Tyler. You've done a tremendous amount of research. You never know when you could find the next, you know, all-star or all-NBA guy in the second round. You know, it can happen. So maybe it's one of these guys.
It's the age-old, you know, the ever-elusive second-round draft pick that could hit. It's the Joker, you know, being drafted in the second round during a Taco Bell commercial, you know, possibly can hit for the Pistons. So, I mean, you're so right. And like, I understand completely that a majority of people don't care necessarily about the NBA draft in general. It's so hard to hit on some of these guys if you don't have a top 3 pick, let alone being outside the lottery. And this year, the Pistons don't have a first round draft pick. Going back to the 2020 draft, I think it was the, if not one of the first drafts that fell under Troy Weaver's tutelage. He traded up to get Isaiah Stewart. He traded that with the New York Knicks. You know, funny that we kind of were going head to head against them this year. But back then we traded up to get him. Ended up, you know, Isaiah Stewart is Isaiah Stewart, right? He's a cornerstone. Whether his offense has fallen off or not, he still brings that defensive energy. We don't need to get into his importance to this team, even though he was one of the first guys in like a decade or something that ended up getting a rookie extension. We're on such a bad run of rookies that no one was worthy of extensions until him. So say what you want about the trade to get up. We don't have a first round draft pick this year. Again, it was traded to New York Knicks, and then they actually traded it in the Karl Anthony Towns trade to the Minnesota Timberwolves. So originally Detroit would be picking 17th. So that pick is going to be going to New York and then to the Timberwolves. So technically the NBA draft is weird in that like they're the only league that you can trade the pick, and then when the player gets drafted, they still technically go on stage and put on the hat of the team that originally had that pick, I believe. So I don't know if it's going to be a Detroit Pistons hat or maybe a New York Knicks hat, but technically the player at 17th overall is going to end up going to the Minnesota Timberwolves. So we don't have a first round draft pick. So even if the parity of the first round of the NBA draft, we don't even have a first round draft pick. What we will be selecting is the 30th overall draft pick, which is technically the 7th pick in the second round. That is also not our pick. We end up getting that draft pick from 2 different teams, I think. Second round picks bounce around from team to team like candy. Like they just kind of get thrown in there. Like you see a trade that 4 or 5 second round picks were included. So I don't know exactly who that pick ended up coming. I think it was Toronto. But we're picking 7th overall in the second round, which is going to be 37th overall. So the kind of you don't have that first round pick, but again, that first round pick was heavily protected in that it wasn't going to convey until we end up making the playoffs. So we made the playoffs, didn't get the pick. It's kind of a trade-off there. So I did break down probably 5 or 6 different guys in which have been mocked to Detroit across numerous different media platforms. You're going through all these. A number of them are being mocked over and over again to the same, the same guys, same teams. So I broke down those guys in which, like, hey, these are everyone that everyone thinks we're going to be end up drafting. And then I also have a few guys that, like, I would probably go this way. Not that I know anything of what I'm talking about, but we can break down a few of those guys too. And so I'm happy that you are sort of on the outside, on the listener aspect of this, to ask the questions of the listener.
Before we jump into a couple of the guys that you're breaking down, I'm just curious, what holes do the Pistons have right now, and like, could we feasibly fill any of those holes with a second round pick with any of these guys that you're going to break down, or is it that really we're going to have to do that in free agency because it's probably not going to happen here?
It's like you're reading my mind, because I was just going to say. So it's really interesting because, and we'll break down the NBA free agency, I believe, starts next week. I'll have to check my notes on that. So we're going to break down probably next week the free agency side of how we fill some of these holes for Detroit. Next week, I'm trying to get some different guests lined up for the podcast. So we may or may not have a few guys on to talk about that. But the free agency side, who we're trying to fill, probably will come next week. But it is so interesting because this is an entirely different NBA draft landscape that we're seeing. With the NIL world that we're living in college basketball, it's really changed not only the college world, but it's inherently changing the NBA world as well, because you get guys that, you got the one and done rule. So you play your 1 year, you can go to the NBA, you can get your money there. If you're a first round draft pick, a lot of these guys are getting first round promises from teams. They're being mocked constantly in top 20. They know they're first round locks. They're going to the NBA. They're getting their money. Now, the other guys that are kind of mid-range first round, falling in the second round, they still might do their one and done, because at worst case scenario, they're getting a two-way contract in the NBA. They're living out their dreams, being drafted. They're going to, and getting on an NBA regimen, going with NBA trainers, stuff like that. They're getting a two-way contract worth a couple $100,000. The NIL has completely changed that landscape of the draftees, in that if you're a second round draft pick, it might be smarter for you, rather than going to the NBA, being a potential second round draft pick, maybe not fully being ready, but knowing that college isn't for you. You can go to the NBA, get $500,000-$600,000, $1.5 million, maybe whatever the two-way contract's going to be, and try and build from there. Now with the NIL, there are guys that were going to be second-round draft picks going back to school because they're being offered $5 million. Why would you not? If you're going to be a second-round draft pick, why would you not go back to school for one more year, collect your $5 million, maybe get a little bit better at, against lesser opponents, and then go to the draft? So in that regard, we're seeing especially the second round of the NBA draft be incredibly watered down. Guys that, like, you're picturing all those second round guys being pulled out because they're going back to school to make $5-6 million. That's got to be filled with guys that, like, the NBA only has two rounds, round one and round two. But theoretically, these are guys that wouldn't go until like a theoretical third, fourth, fifth round, and they don't have the $4 million, $5 million NIL deals waiting for them back at school. So they're kind of just taking their chance, and they're going up to the next level. So it really has changed the entire landscape of the NBA draft.
So what you're telling me is Pistons are screwed. Might as well not even use this pick, right? There's just no one left. Everyone's going back to college.
Well, it's interesting because we're at a position that, like, we're already so young. We don't really even have a spot to fill, another young buck on this team and help there. So we can kind of pivot in a way. And all the mock drafts and these guys that I'll go over in a few minutes, they're all filling the same holes. I know you asked about holes and on this roster, and we'll get into, again, free agency probably next week, if not the week after. There are common themes across the board of these different media platforms that have us mocking different guys. Really, across the board, they have us filling one of three holes. The first hole being getting younger / replacing. I think it's more so replacing rather than getting younger. The replacing of Tim Hardaway Jr. Timmy was the oldest guy on the team. Really played well for us in the playoffs, but he's what you're going to get with him, and we need to get younger and or replace him. There's a lot of questions about who we're actually going to bring back of the Tim Hardaway Jr., Malik Beasley, Dennis Schroeder group, but a common theme across the mock drafts that I'm seeing has us getting a replacement for Tim Hardaway Jr. Another sort of hole that we're trying to fill across a lot of these mock drafts are a younger kind of next player in line succession to Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris, we don't necessarily need to replace him right now as we do Tim Hardaway Jr. because he's under contract for another year. But Tobias Harris isn't any much younger himself, so you need to have that succession in line. Maybe it's Bobby Clintman, maybe it's not. So another some of these other guys that have us mocked to the Detroit Pistons taking is a replacement for Tobias Harris. And then the third hole that a lot of people have us taking is a stretch big, a stretch five that we don't simply have on the roster. So it's just filling that hole rather than replacing or finding a succession. It's just filling that hole that we don't currently have. And because we made the playoffs, we're already so young, we have a lot of potential. You can kind of open up your draft book a little bit, and like, while normally you wouldn't be looking at a 23, 24-year-old guy because he's coming out of college a little bit older, you know, he's already past his really formative years, you know, you can't really develop him to what you want him to be, but he can be someone that can assist and help you immediately. So it's just a completely different position that Detroit is in now that they have been in the past few years, along with, you know, where they sit roster-wise, where they sit success-wise, and where they sit physically in the draft.
Cool. Yeah. I'm totally with you. I mean, might as well take a shot, right? You have the pick, and you never know when you could find the next Joker during a Taco Bell commercial. So yeah, I'm just looking at our show notes right now. See a couple guys that come to mind. Where do you want to start? Tyrese Proctor, John Conji. There's some names out there.
There's some names, and a few of these. I hope some people, if you watch college basketball, if you're a March Madness guys like Kyle and I, a few of these names you should recognize. There's a few guys on here that are from the international waters. So I'll go into a little bit of information on them. Let's start with Tyrese Proctor, though. So Tyrese Proctor, one of the most common guys being mocked to Detroit at 37th overall, 21 years old, 6'4", mostly a two guard out of Duke. So Tyrese Proctor at Duke, he averaged last year 12.4 points per game, 3 rebounds per game, 2.2 assists per game, and shot 40% from the three ball. So from there, you can kind of take what you want about just his baseline stats. Decent scorer, 12.4 is nothing. He's not taking over games, but a 40% 3-point shooter is just an absolute flamethrower, and that's what he is. He's an extremely good shooter in general, both off the dribble and the catch and shoot. He can put the ball on the deck. He has great decision making. He's a little bit older, 21 years old. So he took a year or two in that Duke system to kind of come into his own. When he came to Duke, he was originally a really on-ball point guard, but with his play style, with the guys that Duke had coming in, you know, Duke is always kind of rinse and repeat with these 5 stars. They end up moving him off the ball and to kind of better fit the guys that they had, which was good for him. He was able to prove that he's really a catch and shoot shooter. He can score. He can get his points off the ball. Where he kind of struggles is movement off the ball. So he's not a very good cutter to the basket. He doesn't really kind of. A lot of times you can watch these players and they just have a natural feel of where to go, where the void is on the floor, and just kind of navigate to that spot on the floor and get open for shots and stuff. He's not very good moving off the ball, but he's kind of that prototypical 3-and-D guy. The only kind of hindrance with that 3-and-D moniker is that while he stands at 6'4", he's vastly undersized mass-wise. I think he's under 200 pounds. So his comp is kind of like a Quentin Grimes, 3-and-D guy who was on Detroit for a few months last year, really took off after being traded from Detroit, was great for Philly this year. The only difference is Quentin Grimes has like 30 pounds on him. And so the key for Tyrese Proctor to become a true 3-and-D guy, he has the shooting, his defense can get there, he has a length, but he needs to put on mass and has to be able to basically bulk up and be able to withstand, defensive, offensive NBA players coming at him, and being able to kind of stand his own ground if he's going to make it at the next level.
Yeah, and I think that, the Pistons or any NBA team that drafts this kid, I think they could easily bulk him up. I mean, these are athletes at the end of the day. Like,
right.
They're, obviously they're not a football player, but they're still, they're in the gym. They can bulk up. And so, yeah, I don't see that as being like a huge sticking point or anything. And then, yeah, looking at his stats, it looks like he could be a good replacement potentially for Tim Hardaway Jr.
Yes.
if the Pistons were to move on from this offseason. So yeah, I mean, I'm totally in for that. I could totally see that. And you mentioned that he's not really a guy who's handling the ball. I think that's totally fine. We have a lot of ball handlers on this team already, especially with Jaden Ivey coming back from injury. So I think they do need more of that catch and shoot guy to really space out, play with that second unit and hit threes. And so 40% from 3, I love that. So yeah, I'm all in.
Yeah, and like you said, if there's one thing that these players in any sport, really, NBA, NFL, like when they get to the next level and they're on a professional regimen with professional chefs and professional trainers, like bulking up should be relatively easy for these guys as long as they have the, the wherewithal and the ability to do so. But I think it's super interesting because you mentioned, yeah, like he has the ability to handle the ball. There's a lot of questions in the air whether like Detroit's going to go all in and bring back Dennis Schroeder, if they're going to target somebody else like Tyus Jones or Malcolm Brogdon. Like having a guy in that second unit in Tyrese Proctor who was moved off the ball, so he has the experience of playing a primary point guard, like so like he can manage the ball and he has great decision making abilities. It could be extremely interesting. Like you could run him more with Cade and have him operate off the ball and just be a shooting threat out there, but you also can maybe move him onto the ball and allow Cade to shoot off the dribble or off the ball a little bit, which he's proved to do extremely well this past year. So he's extremely interesting. I think he's, like you mentioned Tim Hardaway Jr. In my opinion, he's like a complete swap with Tim Hardaway Jr. You don't bring back Hardaway, you bring in Tyrese Proctor, hope that his defense gets a little better, he gets a little bigger, and you call it a day there.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm just looking, moving on maybe to another guy. This is an intriguing one. Chaz Lanier, 23 years old, another guard. So we're talking back-to-back guards. This kid he played for Tennessee last year, right? 18 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists per game, and he's a flamethrower, 44% from 3. So I don't know, man. I'm intrigued by these guys who can just absolutely nail it from deep. I mean, this is the NBA, whether you love it or hate it. More and more teams are, shooting more and more threes. So yeah, I think you got to go all in on it, right?
Yeah. So Chaz Lanier, 23 years old, 6'4" guard, originally started at North Florida, then transferred last year and played his last year at Tennessee. Like you said, 18 points per game, 4.8 rebounds, 1.8 assists, 1.2 stocks, and 44% from 3. And so if Tyrese Proctor is more of that Tim Hardaway Jr., can kind of play on and off the ball, flamethrower from 3, decent defense. Chaz Lanier is a cut and fill replacement for Malik Beasley. He is as a 3-point specialist as they come. He's the best catch and shoot 3-point shooter in this draft. And what's also important, like a lot of these other players are catch and shoot guys. Like they can do that. What makes him so special is that he's a great movement shooter. He has the ability. And if you've ever seen Malik Beasley play in person, if you haven't, I extremely recommend you do. It's insane how he's able to come off screens and still be like actively floating away from the basket at the 3-point line and still get a shot off. And it look like he's shooting dead center, like just shooting, even though he's flying, at a few miles an hour to the side. Malik Beasley is a fantastic movement shooter. That's what Chaz Lanier can do. Not everyone can do that. A lot of people can catch and shoot or stand still 3-point shots. Not everyone can do movement shooting. And that's what Chaz Lanier does so great. He is a 3-point specialist as they come. And in the second round, maybe that's all you're asking for. You're not asking for these guys to be superstars and take over your team and transform your team. Maybe you're just hoping that he can come in and light it up from 3. That's maybe your best bet as, in second round. The downside to Chaz Lanier is that he, in a sense, is a one-trick pony. He is a fantastic 3-point shooter. It's kind of all he can do. So he really needs that skill to translate to, and his feet placement, his movement, everything indicates that it will translate, but that he needs to hone in on that and make sure he can do that extremely well because he doesn't attack closeouts very well. Defenses will close on him extremely fast because he's such a great 3-point shooter. He needs to be able to put the ball on the deck and get around him and get into the lane. He had pretty much 0 lane exposure in college, didn't put the ball on the deck very well, didn't get to the basket really at all. So if he's going to maybe diversify his abilities a little bit, he's such a great 3-point shooter. Defenses have to respect him out there. He needs to be able to attack a closeout, put the ball on the deck, get into the paint, get to the basket a little bit, even if, just so like somebody has to play help defense on it a little bit. And then I think, he will truly be a perfect 3-point specialist. His defense isn't bad, but it's not good. It's not like perfect. He's a little bit undersized at just 6'4", but he has good length. So his defense, it needs to get a little bit better, but he's definitely a plug and place kind of guy that, like, if you just need someone to come off the bench, an already developed team, a second round pick, he might be your best bet.
Hell yeah. Yeah, love it. I know. So we talked about 2 guards. We also talked about the Pistons need, potentially needing a stretch 5, someone, other than the guys that they have currently who are more, pound the paint, rebound type guys. And stretch 5s are pretty rare in this league. There's only a handful of them that really come to mind that are currently in the NBA. So like the fact that you're thinking about maybe getting one in the second round, it might be a prayer, but is there anyone that you're looking at that can maybe stretch out that floor a little bit, have some size?
Yeah, so I mean, there's definitely a few different guys that I'm looking at to stretch out as a 5. So I have a few other guys that are like that 3-4. We can get to in a second, but if we're talking about stretching it out as a center, unfortunately, I don't think he's going to make it to us. There's a lot of talk. If you listen to a few of the other Piston polls, stuff like that, some of those guys, the common theme amongst all of them is Maxime Reynaud. He's coming from Stanford. He's a French player. So he's a 4-year Stanford French player. He's 7 foot, 7 foot and a quarter, 237-pound center. Last year he averaged 20.2 points per game, 10.6 rebounds per game, 2.5 stocks, and shot the 3 ball at 35%. So you say, 35%, that's not insane. We just talked about a 45 or 44% 3-point shooter. 35% from a 7-footer is definitely enough to make defenses respect you out there. While he's putting up 20 points and 10 rebounds, he is in my opinion, he is like the perfect stretch big available in this draft, especially around where the Pistons are. The unfortunate part about Maxime Reynaud is that he's being mocked around 30 to 31, so like right at the edge of the first round and second round. So if you're going to get him, it's not very likely he's going to slip to 37. If you're going to get him, you're going to have to probably trade up to get him. I think I personally think he's worth it. His movement is fantastic. He has the outside touch. He needs to get a little bit more physical in the paint. He is a little bit, maybe too much of a stretch 5. He needs to be able to pound a little bit in the paint. But he's a guy, like if he's there at 32, I'm trading up to get him. I don't know what it would technically cost, but I'm trading up to get him because he's the perfect stretch big. Like we said, we're not replacing anyone on this team for that. We just don't have one. We need to fill it.
I think the Pistons have like a shitload of second round picks as well, right? Or am I just did I just totally make that up?
No, you didn't make that up. So Troy Weaver, I think it maybe was written in his bylaws or something. He might have been legally required to send out a second round pick every other week. He was in charge. He was sending those things out like they were candy, and we truly had like 0 second round picks. When Trajan Langdon came in here, the first thing he said was he needed to restock the cupboard, and pretty much every trade he made was bringing back 2 or 3 second round picks for us. In the Tim Hardaway Jr. trade, I think we got a few. So we have refilled a good amount of second round picks. And like I said, second round picks get thrown around like candy. Troy Weaver wasn't the only one who likes to do that. So we definitely have enough to go up and get him if he's there at like 31, 32.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know what that ratio is. I know there's like in the NFL at least, I know there's draft charts and like you can see
what they're worth
exactly how much you have to give up to go to another round. For the NBA, I'm sure they have something similar, but I just don't know the value of second round picks. But for going from like the 37th pick to the 34th, it can't cost that much, right? So yeah, I'm intrigued by this kid. I mean, 7 feet and you shoot the 3 ball at 35%, like you're gonna get eyes on you.
Yeah, so there's one other stretch big that likely will be there as well. Will be there, unlike Renewed, I should say. And that's gonna be, and I apologize because I know I'm going to just butcher this name.
Yeah. Good luck with this name.
Is Bogolub Markovic. Markovic is the easy part. Bogolub, B-O-G-O. He is a 20-year-old, 6'10.5" power forward center who also stretches the floor pretty well. And so this past year, he averaged 13.2 points per game, 6.9 rebounds per game, 2.6 assists per game, 0.9 blocks per game. So not so much that defensive-minded big that maybe Renewed is, but he did average 39%, almost 39% from 3. So he has the size and the shooting ability, not necessarily the defense there, though. So it's if you want just the size and the ability just to have more size on the court and have someone out there and play like a 5-out kind of style, you can do that with him. He kind of is more fit to be that 4 role rather than a 5 based on his lack of like defense and some finishing issues at the rim. But he's another guy who would just generally give you a 7-footer who can shoot threes out there.
You tell me this guy has no stocks? You didn't mention any stocks.
This guy, I'm pulling up his numbers right now. He
He's
had
he's a broke boy, no stocks.
No, he had zero point 0.9 blocks per game and zero point 0.8 steals per game. So you're looking at less than 2 stocks per game at 7 foot almost. It seems, you should have a decent amount more. And that's why he maybe would stick more as like a 4 rather than the 5, which would work, right? You have Isaiah Stewart as a backup 5 who is, leads the league in rim protection and blocks and stuff like that. And you have, what I say, how many rebounds he had per game? 6.9 rebounds. So not very great for a 6'10" guy. But you have Jalen Duren, who all he likes to do is rebound the basketball. So like you could pair him at the 4 with one of those guys at the 5 and make it work, but doesn't necessarily fill that stretch 5 position that you're looking for.
All right. Well, I just want to apologize to Mr. Bogoljub Markovic. He does in fact have stocks. He's not a broke boy.
He has stocks.
That's on me.
Markovic has stocks, just not as many for 6'10". If I was 6'10", I almost would guarantee I could have more stocks. But that's neither here nor there. We do have a few other guys, just to wrap this up. And I know this has been a long-winded breakdown, and not everyone is super into this like I am, and I know you are to an extent, Kyle, as well. But we have John Tanji. Some of you in the Big Ten might know John Tanji. He started his college career at Colorado State, transferred to Missouri for a year, and then this past year played for the Wisconsin Badgers, was a thorn in the Michigan State Spartans side. He is a 6'5", kind of like a 2-3 guard, 24 years old, a little bit older, again from Wisconsin, averaged 19.6 points, 5.3 rebounds, 1.8 assists, and shot just about 39% from 3 this past year. For him, it's a little bit interesting because he kind of, in my opinion, falls under that, like, was an older, bigger guy guard forcing his way to the basket and getting his points with just basically pure physicality and beating up on smaller, younger college players. That doesn't necessarily transfer to the NBA. A lot of times those type of guys get to the NBA and suddenly everyone's the same size and or bigger than you, and you can't get to the line, get into the paint as you normally did. So you can struggle a little bit. So that's really going to be the key for him. He can shoot at 39%, but is his physicality going to translate at the NBA level? Is his defense going to come around to, again, be a 3-and-D guy? And that's really what's going to delineate him from having, any sort of success at the next level for Detroit.
Dude, he's so sick though. Like, I mean, just watching him at Wisco, he's a flamethrower, and I think that his draft stock is climbing, maybe just slightly, but I think he did have a very good NBA draft combine, particularly his shooting. So yeah, I mean, I think he's probably mocked to go a little bit later than that Pistons pick, but who knows, man? Maybe you take a stab at him. I don't know, if you're gonna reach for a guard, but I mean, I love John Tanji. I mean, yeah, he's an absolute gamer.
Yeah, and so the last guy that is commonly being mocked to Detroit is one that, before I get into it, I just want to be on the record saying I am out on. I want Detroit to kind of steer clear from this guy, and that's Alex Tui. Nothing against Alex Tui. He's a 21-year-old, 6'8" 3/4", so damn near 6'9" wing from Australia's NBL league. So not from college basketball, not a guy that a lot of people have seen play. This past year, he would, like I said, fill in that sort of Tobias Harris heir apparent role. If you don't think Bobby Klintman is that guy, Alex Tui would be that role there. So this past year, he averaged 10.5 points, 3.9 rebounds, 1.3 assists. The kicker here is that he's supposed to be that 3'4", 6'8", 6'9" wing 3-4 position. He only shoots 30% from 3. So I'm kind of surprised to see him being mocked to Detroit so much with him struggling from 3 as he does. But a few good things about him. He's a very switchable 3-4 just because of his size. He has great length, great wingspan. He can switch between 3 and 4. Extremely good decision maker. He's very smart with the ball, similar to Tyrese Proctor in that, like, he knows where to go with the ball. He knows where to dish the ball, how to get his players involved. He's an extremely high motor and a great defender. Again, he's able to use that length and that wingspan in order to affect and get in passing lanes and stuff like that. It's just his shooting. His shooting's just not there. The film kind of shows that there's reason for optimism on his catch and shoot threes, but that's really it. He's not really showing any reason, giving me any reason to believe that he can expand on the pull-up, his pull-up jumper has any reason to make it on the next level. So I'm kind of surprised to see him mocked to Detroit so often, given that we continuously need three-point shooting at this day and age. Seems like every team needs 5 three-point shooters on their team, and Alex Tui just doesn't fall under that unless you're really banking on Fred Vinson to have his jumper come around. But in my opinion, I think Fred's got his hands full with Asar and Ron Holland. Like, why throw another
Please.
guy in there?
Yeah, for sure. Focus on Ron Holland. By the way, Ron Holland did improve over the year, so I'm pumped to see an off season and to see where he stacks up next year as far as shooting threes. But definitely him and Asar Thompson, work on your free throws, man. So yeah, just want to say real quick, yeah, you mentioned those two guys. They need better shooting.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what they've been doing nonstop since the season ended. So that's really the main guys that are being mocked to Detroit. You have Tyrese Proctor, John Tanji, Alex Tui, Chaz Lanier, Maxime Renewed. I'm not even going to put him in the category of guys that are being mocked to Detroit because most things I'm seeing has him going before us. So those are pretty much the guys. If I'm going to break those down into like my priority list, I think based on where we're at right now and like how young we already are and our core is pretty much already in place, I think my number one priority is going to be Chaz Lanier, just because, like we mentioned, if nothing else, he is a flamethrower. Even if like the other parts of his attack and closeout, stuff like that doesn't come around, he still is a guy who can shoot 44% off the bench. And that's a guy who can help you, randomly times in the season, like a second round pick, you don't expect much from. So Chaz Lanier is going to be my number one realistic. Let me say that, with the caveat that if Maxime Renewed is anywhere around available around us, you're trading up to get him. And then an asterisk for if Rasheed Fleming is anywhere around where we're going. Rasheed is the guy that we didn't even get into because there's no chance he makes it out of the 20s of the draft. But if he's available, you're trading up or getting anywhere around to try and get him. We don't need to go into it. You guys can look him up on your, after you listen here. He's 6'8", basically a perfect 3-4 Tobias Harris replacement. Shot like 40% from three or something. He's a perfect replacement. If he's anything even close to available, you're going out and get Rasheed Fleming. If he's not, Maxime Renewed. If he's not, Chaz Lanier, I'd be happy to have him.
I think that you purposely left off our guy Bogoljub Markovic off your list because
I'm not saying his
you didn't
name
want to
again.
say his name.
I can't say his name.
Yeah.
I'll call him Markovic. That's fine. But I'm not. I don't even know if Bogoljub is his name.
I think I'm calling it right now. He's the next Jokic. Yeah, I mean, I think we need him. So that's my prediction. But dude, I just want to say a great breakdown. Yeah, like I said, I did very little to almost no research. I'm like, oh, it's a second round pick. It doesn't matter. And now I'm actually pumped. I'm pumped to see this draft now. Week from today, when you're listening, yeah, maybe Detroit's going to get the next great second round pick, maybe an all-star. It's rare, but it's not impossible. I'm pumped, man.
Yeah, at the very least, let's try and get somebody who can randomly come in, spell a few minutes in a playoff series and light it up from three, or be a connector or something like that. So still have reason to watch. I will be watching all the first round, even though Detroit does not. I think this is the first year that they're splitting it into two different nights, which I'm very excited for. That second round always gets so late, and I can't follow it. So I'm happy they're splitting into two different nights, even though, like I said, the second night in the second round is probably going to lack a little bit viewership-wise, just because, again, these are guys that would normally probably go in the theoretical third or fourth round if there was such a thing in the NBA, because all the second round players are staying in college because of the NIL. So it's a bigger thing that the NBA is going to have to probably get out ahead of in the next few years to try and spruce up the second round, or suddenly those are going to become pointless. So yeah, we'll be watching. We have one more episode before the NBA draft takes place, but like we did with the NFL draft, we wanted to get these names out there to you guys. So as we're getting into the upcoming days of the draft, you can start picking out these names in different articles and start looking into some of these guys. And, you go to the bar this weekend, maybe you're trying to chat somebody up and you can throw some of these names out and it can help you out a little bit. I don't know. Give us credit if you do, but that was our just our breakdown, and we'll talk next week about who Detroit's actually end up going to taking, and the week after who we end up taking, and stuff like that. So
and trust me, girls will be impressed if you throw out Bogoljub Markovic as a sleeper for the Pistons at 37. I mean, it's an instant game over. So
it's honestly unfair. It's unfair. Okay, so let's keep moving forward. We did that was about 35 minutes on the NBA draft. Thank you guys for sticking with us on that one. Again, similar to the minor league updates I provided a few weeks ago. That's just the kind of stuff that I just nerd out with, and I watch way too much way too much players and oversee players games and stuff like that. So we do have some Detroit Tigers stuff. We have the Tigers, actually, again, we record Tuesday nights, just coming off a win against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Super important win after kind of a disgusting series against the Reds. But along with that win, we did get some good news after some potentially bad news. So Will Vest went down late last week in one of his games, in one of his outings. He kind of threw a pitch, immediately kind of signaled to the training staff, and they ended up taking him out. He said after the game that he wasn't quite sure what it was. He quote, "I kind of felt something zing a little bit in my fingers and lost a little bit of feeling in the bottom two. So I called him out and was saying, hey, that one felt a little weird. We're just going to be a little cautious." So hearing that, Will Vest has been incredible, along with Tommy Canley. They've been a great 1-2 punch in the bullpen. We obviously need more help there, but if we were to lose Vest, that would be even more disastrous of the last 3-4 weeks that the Detroit Tigers have had. Luckily, we did just get word that Vest underwent tests on Sunday, revealed no serious injury. He received treatment yesterday on the off day Monday, and he will avoid any IL time. He's going to essentially be back in the mix of things. I think they'll probably take it easy with him. I didn't see if he even pitched tonight against the Pirates, but I would assume they're going to take it easy on him, especially against a series like the Pirates. I would expect them to kind of hold off on getting him back in there. But great news that he's able to avoid the IL in general, and we can kind of keep that 1-2 punch between him and Tommy Canley.
Yeah, it's huge because, out of those two guys, Will Vest is your highest leverage pitcher. He's your best pitcher out of the pen by far. He closes out a lot of games. He has 12 saves on the season. Really, really great ERA. I think 2.5 ERA, sub 1 WHIP. So yeah, he's incredible. And say what you want that we can and should add another high leverage guy before the deadline. But yeah, Will Vest is the best we have right now, and he's really good. So yeah, just to see that he's avoiding any kind of major injury. That's huge because that could have been pretty detrimental. Now, I will say that, the sky is very much not falling down. Lost the series to the Reds. That was a shit series. The boys didn't really play well. They won the first game, then coughed up the next two. And in the rubber match, they were quite literally booting the ball all around the defense, the field. I think they committed at least 3 or 4 errors, looking like, me in 8th grade travel ball. It was horrible. So, but all is not lost with this Tigers team. Still 47-27, still the best record in baseball by 2 full games. And they have a 10-game lead over the Guardians and the Twins. I didn't really realize that the AL Central was it's just in an absolute free fall death spiral right now for all teams not named the Tigers. A combined 20-game losing streak. 4 teams not named the Tigers in the AL Central. And I think, the White Sox and I think the Royals are both on a 6-game skid. So, the fact that, the Tigers I think they're in a little bit more of cruise mode right now. They're not playing amazing. They're not playing bad by any, stretch of the imagination. And they still have a 10-game lead in the AL Central. So I think you can probably coast for a couple weeks and you're not really going to get bit. So yeah, it's still a good time to be a Tigers fan. The team is awesome. I think they probably could use a couple weeks to get a little healthy, get some guys back. Yeah. And go from there. But yeah, still best team in baseball. So that's never bad.
Yeah. And the other thing we need to mention that I think came out in between episodes, I don't know if we talked about this last week, was Jackson Jobe going officially down with Tommy John surgery. So that's one thing we alluded to a few weeks ago. I mentioned immediately he got pulled. His velocity was down like 1.5 miles per pitch, which was interesting and weird. And then he kind of got beat up a little bit and got pulled, which is when you're kind of missing velocity like that. It's a lot of times it's a sign of what ended up happening. He was said to have some elbow discomfort. Kind of the thought out there was that it was going to be a Tommy John injury. I don't know if they were just getting like second, third, fourth opinions, or they were just kind of playing coy. They end up just kind of sending him down apparently. And then he had some sort of injury designation. He just released, I think it was 6 days ago, they just had said that he is going to have his season shut down and he is going to undergo Tommy John surgery. He had that surgery performed earlier today in Texas. So Jackson Jobe will be out for the rest of the season. It's a shame. You're right. We don't have that much to worry about right now because we have that 10-game cushion. We can kind of get guys healthy, focus on the deadline, get ready for the playoffs. But it is a shame that your young pitcher who is, supposedly going to be taking the mantle from Tarek Skubal at some point is not going to be with the club and is missing this year. and chances are all of next year. The only, I guess, silver lining is while like we mentioned, when he sort of went down with that injury, in today's day and age, you can come back better than ever from Tommy John. It's not like it was in the past where like you get Tommy John and it's a death sentence. Like his career is over. He had a great career. It's now, he'll never be the same. Tarek Skubal got Tommy John. Casey Mize already got Tommy John. Like these guys that are leading rotations have gotten Tommy John. It's an unfortunate way the MLB has gone, and it's something that trainers and the MLB in general and other people part of the staff and rotation are going to have to figure out how to try and avoid getting Tommy John, because it seems like all pitchers are getting it these days. But it's not, like you said, not the end of the world. It's unfortunate, but I know he'll come back stronger and better than ever.
Yeah, it would be so sweet if he turns into the next Scooble with TJ's. But yeah, no, it's tough because he was having a great season. But I do think that they were probably going to have him on some kind of pitch count, right? Especially as the season went on. So who knows how useful he would have been even like in the playoffs or in like a high leverage situation. So again, it sucks, but it's not the end of the world. Like you just mentioned, Tyler, you just broke it down. So no need to break it down again. But yeah, just wishing Jackson Jobe a speedy recovery, rehab. I think he had the surgery today or yesterday. So yeah, just wishing the kid all the best, and he's going to come back better than ever.
So let's keep moving forward. We are going to stay within the baseball diamond. It's the dog days of summer. We're going to do a Mount Rushmore of ballpark things. So anything related to going down to the ballpark, baseball game, out in the summer, the Mount Rushmore of things, all attributing to that experience. We're going to go back and forth right now. As it sits, Kyle and I are both 1-1. Technically with Mount Rushmore / snake drafts, pretty similar things. I won our first one way back a few months ago doing the must-see athletes in Detroit. And then you won our most recent one, the villains of Detroit. Admittedly, not a great showing for myself. I'm starting to learn that, those were all great picks in my mind, but I think I need to recalibrate a little bit, maybe work the crowd a little bit and try and get back.
You pandering? You can't.
I'm not going to pander. I'm not going to pander.
All
There's
right.
a fine line, I think, between pandering and going. I can go super niche, and it's going to be a great pick for me, but I think I need to stay away from that. So let's real quick do a random number generator to see who goes first. 1 through 10, even or odd.
Let's go even. I think I'd go even every time. Let's do it.
You've gone even every time, and you have been wrong every time.
Dude,
it came out as 5. It came out as 5.
You know what? I don't believe you. I believe you. Yeah. Okay.
So I'm going to go with the first pick. And I think this is a big first pick, because I think when you think ballparks, you think summer, there is one thing that is synonymous with that. And so I think this is a really important first round pick, and I'm really happy I got it. My number 1 overall pick's got to be ballpark hot dog. You go to the game, you're getting a ballpark hot dog. If you're going in Detroit, you're getting, maybe might be too hot, but a Coney dog. You're in Chicago, you're going to get a Chicago dog. Wherever you go, you're going to get your personalized hot dog for that team. Number 1 overall, gotta be ballpark hot dog.
Yeah, it's a great pick, and I'm fuming a little bit because this was high on my list. I think I had a better pick, but now I can't pick it because it's so close to yours. But mine was Dollar Dog Night, which
can't
I
pick
think
it.
Comerica Park doesn't do it, which shame on you, Comerica Park. You need to. Minute Maid Park down here in Texas, now renamed Daikin Park. Gross, by the way. Gross name. But yeah, Dollar Dog Night every Tuesday. And
That's actually crazy.
It's incredible.
I
It's
didn't know
incredible. Every Tuesday, we're during the summer, it's like, oh, what are you doing? Your friends aren't doing anything. Just go to the ballpark. Get $4 worth of
That's
hot
like a
dogs.
minor league. That's like a minor league deal. I love that.
It's incredible. It's incredible. So yeah, I think more ballparks need to adopt this. I'm jealous that you had the number 1 pick. I still, I might be protesting this because I can't believe that I've been wrong 3 times on even. So awesome pick. I have 2 picks now. My first pick, and I did get a little bit more niche with these. Like I'm not just going hot dog. I'm going. These are things. These are things that
you didn't get first round pick hot dog.
I'm not upset. All right, I'm not upset at all. I'm just disappointed. But my first round pick, cutting out of work early for a day game. There's really nothing better. And let me just, preface this by saying responsibly, of course. If you got work to do, get your work done, take a half day, whatever you got to do. But there's just nothing better than cutting out of work early, heading down to the ballpark, maybe having a few, beers or, mimosas with your friends because it's like noon on a Wednesday. And you're going to a game. So yeah, that's an easy 1-1 for me. Again, responsibly, of course, but yeah, there's really nothing better than drinking beer on a random 1 p.m. when you could or should be working.
I like it. I like every day, opening day. I do that whether I'm taking the actual full day off to go down for opening day, or answering emails in the morning and then taking the afternoon and getting down there to the downtown, getting to the ballpark. As long as it's responsible, I'm all for it. Was not on my list. So was it a do I love doing it? Yes. Was it a reach? Maybe also yes. I don't know. Who's to say? Thank God you said right before you picked that you have two picks to start off, because I already immediately had forgotten that it goes 1, 2, 2, 1. So with your next pick, what are you going with?
Yeah, I mean these are all niche. I don't think any of these are going to be on your list. That's just no slight to you, Tyler. This is just how my mind was working with ballpark things. I love everything about summer because it's all baseball. So my second pick, yeah, actually, you know what? I am going to go a little bit more basic on this one. My second pick, not just any beer. 25-ounce Modelo cans. You get to the ballpark, you're getting a 25-ounce, just the mega can, the tall boy, because you don't want to be getting up every inning to get a new beer. So you're going with the big boy, and specifically, I'm going Modelo because they just hit different at the ballpark, man. There's just something about them. So yeah, I think it's a good second pick.
It's a good pick. I'm on record as being a Modelo lover, not a sponsor of the show.
Wish it was.
We have a long way to go before they start sponsoring. Maybe they should. But I think that's even outside ballparks. You go to any sort of stadium, you always get that big boy just because, like you said, you don't want to get up and go back. Maybe you even get two of them. Then you can last the whole first quarter or whatever event you're going to. That's a great pick. And you need something nice and cold, and a cool Modelo and a hot summer ballpark day. Nothing better.
Hell yeah. Okay, let's hear it, man. I think you got two picks now.
So I'm gonna go with my next two picks, and I realized a lot of my items are food related, and I don't know if that says about me or if that just ballparks is synonymous with food. My number two is gonna be shelled peanuts that you're just breaking and throwing on the ground at your feet. And you were walking past, maybe you're sneaking out of your row, you see a guy next to you, and there's just a pile of peanuts on the ground. There's nothing better than getting that bag, handing it all the way down the line, everyone taking a handful, just throwing them on the ground. Sometimes you eat the shell because it's a little bit salty, and it tastes good. You wash it down with that big can of Modelo, and then, you regret eating the shells, and then you go back to just eating the peanuts on the inside. Nothing better than the shells, and specifically breaking them and throwing them on the ground and just getting up and trashing it.
Love that. Yep, had that on my list. Yeah, I don't know if I was going to go honorable mention or if that might have actually snuck in to my top four. There's nothing better than just eating a shitload of peanuts at a baseball game.
Okay, so my third pick now is going to be, I'm going to go with, this one might be a little too niche. I might screw myself here. The oversized slushy. You get it. They oversize in the giant. A lot of times you see them in like Las Vegas. You can see them at ballparks though. It's like the big top, the big bottom, and the real skinny line going down the middle. It's like $23 or something. Maybe it has a little lanyard that goes around your neck and you're drinking it. It's probably all sugar and no alcohol, but it's hot out there. You get the slushy, you feel a little bit cooled down. You trick your mind a little bit and think there's more alcohol in it, so you're feeling pretty good. You maybe get another one, so now you're $60 in the hole, and that just speaks ballpark to me.
Oh yeah, I mean yeah, because I think you can get the booze floater on top of it, right, for an extra $20. Yeah, I mean, Mr. If you got the cash, personally I don't, but if you do, I mean, go for it because that's big time.
Yeah. Okay. So do you have two picks now? You got two picks. Yeah, you have two picks.
I have two picks. Yeah, it's almost impossible to get lost in the snake when there's only two people.
It's so hard.
We do it every single time.
It's so hard for me.
Okay. This is interesting. I could go really niche. I think you know what? This is one that kind of, almost takes me back to my childhood. Yeah, you know what? I like this pick a lot. I'm going to go with it. I'm going to go Dippin' Dots, specifically out of the mini Tigers helmet.
That's such a good pick.
I mean, just because it's awesome, man. Because as a kid, even as a 29-year-old adult right now, I mean, I still love getting that little Tigers helmet. Taking it home, maybe use it for ice cream the next day, whatever. But especially as a kid, just kind of like collecting those mini helmets. I had them like all over my room. Yeah, so really takes me back. I mean, Dippin' Dots, it's the dessert of the future, ice cream of the future. One day we'll actually get to the future, and I don't know if Dippin' Dots will be around anymore, but yeah, I mean, I'm happy with that pick. I think that's probably a value pick.
That's such a good pick. That's such a good
Yeah.
pick because it's two good things. I had the same thought of like that mini helmet, and I was trying to figure out if I wanted to take just that or like ice cream in it. Like the helmet itself is a good pick, and then the Dippin' Dots on top of it, you're just combining two great picks into one. Why don't we do Dippin' Dots more often? Dippin' Dots are fantastic. The ice cream of the future. Why don't normal places sell it? I don't get it.
Dude, I know, man. Yeah, it's a ballpark thing, and I guess it's fine with it. Okay, so I have one more pick. Man, I got a lot on here. You know what? I'm gonna go with this is one of my favorite things to do, and you can't do it from just anywhere in the ballpark. You have to have specific seats, but when you have those seats, it's awesome. I'm gonna go heckling the right or left fielder as my number 4 choice. It's just so fun, especially after a couple of those 25-ounce Modelo's. And you get a little frisky, and that opposing left fielder, he's got his back to you the whole night. He's unassuming, but sometimes he needs to get heckled too. He needs to get taken down a peg. Just because these are MLB athletes doesn't mean that they can't be heckled. So I know there's a few guys on TikTok and Instagram that like go viral from heckling the fielders. It's super fun, and it's all in good fun too. We're not saying anything too malicious, but I love a good heckle for the right or left fielder, so I had to put that on there.
Yeah, that's a great pick because we've done it, a handful of times. Like you said, all in good fun. You'd be surprised at how much they can hear you. The outfielders can hear you talking. When the Astros came to town, I think you were with us here in Michigan, and we were just heckling Kyle Tucker when he was there, and he was having a good time. We were talking about him. You try and just get them off their game. So it's you're right. You can't do that from just anywhere. It doesn't really work so efficiently when you're up in the third deck and screaming down. They really can't hear that. But it's a great pick. I like that. It's something I love to do as long as it's done in good fun, which most of the times it usually is. So
for sure.
So I went with the hot dogs, oversized.
No, you got one more.
I have one
pick.
more.
You got one more pick. You picked 3 times. I mean, you could just have a big 3 if you want.
All right, I got one more. I thought maybe you were going to take this one last because it's not pandering. This is not a pandering pick. This is just synonymous with baseball in ballparks, and that's just singing the 7th inning stretch. Take me out to the ball game. You can't go to a baseball game, and it's the most obvious thing. Hot dogs and 7th inning stretch. Take me out to the ball game. Those two things are synonymous with going to the ballpark, standing up, doing, actual stretching because we're old now and we can't be sitting for that long. You put your arms around your buddies. Again, you've had a few of those Modelo's. You're singing, you're swaying back and forth. You're singing, take me out to the ball game. Hopefully your team is winning. You're enjoying the day off that you cut out of work early because that was also on our list. And it's sort of signifying you're coming towards the end of the game, towards the end of the day that you've had. Enjoy these last few innings and get ready, to head home. So that's got to be on my list.
Love that. I think that's a great last pick too, because like you said, it's extreme value. Yeah, like you said, like it's the game's almost over. This Mount Rushmore's almost over, and then you're still belching it out with your boys. Just who doesn't love just screaming out root for the Tigers? If they don't win, it's a shame. So yeah, man, I love it. I love our picks, and I think I'm just super fired up for just the dog days of summer and just going to endless baseball games, Tigers games, Astros games for me down here. A little bit of both. So yeah, man, I think this is going to be a close one, man. Should we do some honorable mentions?
Yeah, I was going to say before we get into some grid of the week and some real quick golf recap, you got any honorable mentions? I know I have a few.
Yeah, I had quite a few as well. One for me, finding the closest bar to the stadium that has the cheapest beer. It's an absolute must. It's probably too niche for me to actually throw on a Mount Rushmore, but yeah, over the years we've definitely found them down here in Houston. I'm sure y'all have as well in Detroit, but that's a big one for me. Let's see, another super niche one. Throwing a jersey over your hoodie for a playoff game. It can't get more niche than that. It's also just immaculate vibes. One, because it's a playoff game, but yeah, just the hoodie jersey combo. Insanely good. And then last thing that I had, I actually had 2 more. One, the 999 challenge, which I wasn't going to pick because really it's probably more hell than anything else.
Yeah.
But that could be fun, maybe, if that's your provocative. Is that a word? Anyways, moving on. Last thing, picking your hypothetical walk-up song. It's a fun thing I like to do with my buddies. Mine, personally, Till I Collapse by Eminem, if I was ever good enough to make it to the big leagues. Yeah, that's definitely mine. But it's always fun just to chat about it because, you hear these walk-up songs at all times during the game.
Yeah, and you always have the best one, and at least in your mind. So a few of mine, I
Yeah.
have sitting next to the old guys who are keeping score by hand, and also like
Yeah.
listening to the game on the radio. That's always, you watch those guys, and it's truly America's pastime. They're just there, likely alone, just enjoying the day, enjoying the Tigers, and keeping score in their their personalized book. Ballpark nachos, back to the food. Ballpark
Hmm.
nachos are better than any nachos you likely will ever have. Like just the cheese and the what pickled jalapenos and stuff like that. You can't get any better than that. I have, let's see, one of the last ones I have. Oh, one of those pitching machines out in the concourse. Thinking that maybe there's a scout that just happens to be standing in the area, like just kind of surveilling that, and then you go in there in the hopes that maybe you'll get discovered and they'll give you like a contract to go pitch in that game or like a game in the future. Maybe getting discovered in that pitching machine.
And then you 57 miles an hour.
And you hurt yourself doing so because we're getting older, and then you need more of those oversized slushies in order to get you home because you're in so much pain. Yeah, it's all classic ballpark stuff.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
dude, I mean, great Mount Rushmore. We're gonna put it on our socials. Make sure you go out there and vote for your favorite. Not asking for your vote. That'd be pandering. We don't do that on the show. But yeah, go out there and vote.
Yeah, this one's important. We're tied 1-1, so we'll have more as the summer goes on, and we get into the dog days of summer and the fall and stuff like that. We'll come back to these. So make sure you guys go on there and vote. But let's start wrapping up the show. We have a little bit of a golf recap for the U.S. Open from last week.
Yeah, just real quick. I know we're already probably almost at the hour mark here, but U.S. Open at Oakmont, it didn't disappoint. JJ Spawn wins on just one of the most electric putts that I've seen, especially in those conditions, in the rain, really difficult greens, especially on 18 there. To make a 64-foot putt to win the U.S. Open. Granted, he did have two putts to win, but I will say if he didn't nail that putt, that comebacker was probably going to be 3 or 4 feet, and that's when your knees start knocking. So yeah, didn't matter. He nailed the putt, finished 1 under. He was the only player in the tournament to finish under par. So I will say, I think the course did win. Help from the weather for sure. Help from just torrential downpours, especially on Sunday. But yeah, to have the entire field finish over par except for JJ Spawn, and he was over par until that 64-foot putt. So, or at least he was even par. So yeah, I mean, it was an awesome tournament, and yeah, I think it didn't disappoint. And props to JJ. It was only his second PGA Tour win victory, obviously first major. So yeah, that's huge for the guy. Our picks didn't do so great. I think that honestly, your pick for Keegan Bradley, he finished third +9. So I mean, that's some pretty good value because he was probably projected to finish way worse than that. Honestly, not a bad pick for you. My pick, pretty disgusto Barfo. Scotty did end up finishing 7th at shooting +4, but he really wasn't in contention for any of the tournament. So I'd say that's a big 0 for 2 from us.
Yeah, and I know in last week's preview you mentioned that people were expecting that possibly for the first time in quite some time we could have a winner finish above par, and the players came out swinging. The course really took a beating in that first round. We started singing an albatross and some birdies and stuff like that, but the course came back, and it didn't go down without a fight. So I'm glad everyone but one guy, that obviously the winner there ended up winning. And everything I heard, again, I'm not a huge avid golf watcher. I know people absolutely loved the finish there. So yeah, awesome. Shout out to him. Like you said, not a more known name. So shout out to him. Next time, maybe you'll be my pick to win the next major. I don't know. Probably not, but
There
maybe.
we go. Maybe JJ Spawn. Just maybe, man. Congrats.
Okay, so let's wrap up the show. Like you mentioned, we're past the hour mark. So let's wrap up the show with some grit of the week. I will kick us off here. My grit of the week, I was going back and forth. I wanted to throw a grit of the week to all the dads out there because it's Father's Day this past week. Probably should have did that last week. Didn't want to pander to them a little bit. Would that have earned me their vote from our last Mount Rushmore? I don't know. Feel free to vote for me if you think that's the case. But I decided to pivot, and I'm going to give my grit of the week to Joey Chestnut, the greatest athlete of all time. He is officially just released this earlier today or yesterday. He will return to the Coney Island hot dog eating contest after his, pun intended, beef that he had last year. Joey Chestnut, synonymous with 4th of July, right? He's the greatest athlete of all time, hot dog eating champion, best competitive eater of all time. He 16-time national champion of the Nathan's famous eating hot dog contest. He wasn't allowed to participate last year because in sort of a sketchy back and forth, he was ruled ineligible because he signed a deal, a product deal with Impossible Hot Dogs, which is technically a competitor with Nathan's Hot Dog. They decided that was kind of a breach in contract of some sort, and he was not able to compete in the 4th of July eating contest, which is just, frankly, it should be illegal. I mean, Joey Chestnut is the 4th of July hot dog eating contest. He's back this year. He will be competing. You better believe he's going to break even more records based on the not participating last year. So Joey Chestnut, congrats on being back. I hope after this 4th of July, you break all the records and I can give you another Grid of the Week performing after the year off that we didn't have you.
Yeah, Chestnut. He's the GOAT, man. And yeah, I think last year's Nathan's hot dog eating contest, it wasn't the same without him. So,
it wasn't.
Yeah. It's great to see him back and better than ever. And yeah, congrats on your Grid of the Week, man. It's probably even better than all the records that you've broken. So big shout out to Joey Chestnut. I am going to go with easy pick, going back to chalk, kind of right at the buzzer. Just happened tonight. Going Grid of the Week, Javi Baez. 2 dingers on a night, kid. You're getting Grid of the Week. It has the average back up to, or nearly back up to 290, helping to propel this Tigers team over kind of a shit Pirates team, but still a much needed win there to kind of right the ship after a losing series to Cincinnati. So yeah, Javi's pop had been kind of declining a bit. He hadn't hit a homer. I think he probably hadn't hit one since that walk off. So it was definitely weeks or maybe even a month. So great to see him hit too. It seems like when he's on, and when he decides to hit homers, he hits multiple in a night. So yeah, Javi Baez, Grid of the Week.
Yeah. So full disclosure, right before we record this, I'm off playing beer league volleyball with our good friend Alec Taylor, who is the co-host of the Party Chat podcast. If you guys are into gaming and streaming and stuff like that, go listen to them. They put out their episodes every Friday. I was talking with him and he's like, we're not going to lose this game to the Pirates, are we? And I said, no, there's no way. I mean, I just said that because I assumed we weren't going to lose to the Pirates. I had no idea that Javi was going to be the guy to come through for us. Like you said, he was starting to dip a little bit. We broke down the numbers a few weeks ago that like since his last outbreak against what I think it's the Red Sox, he hit the double home runs to win it. His numbers have dipped. Now it seems like he's kind of getting back up. He's taken over shortstop responsibilities again since Trey Sweeney is really struggling. So that's very, very deserving. I'm glad you end up going with him. I'm glad we were able to record after that game so he can win that award because he's definitely worthy of it. So that's a great pick. Javi and Joey Chestnut, both elite athletes. You can't convince me one's better than the other athletic wise. So both of them, both of you guys come on the podcast. We'll share a hot dog and, turn 2 or something like that. And, accept your award. So, all right, that is our show. Thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode. You can find Kyle on X, the Everything app at Kyle_Marino. You can find me at Dutton_Tyler, and both at Piston Powered and Champagne Athletics. You can follow the podcast itself on Instagram at Gridiron Report, on Twitter at Gridiron Report 1, or you can watch us on YouTube at Gridiron Report. Again, we'll be posting our results from the Mount Rushmore today on the social media on both TikTok and Instagram, so you guys can go on there, follow us both if you aren't, and then give us your vote so we know who won and takes the lead in our Mount Rushmore snake draft competition. Finally, you can join the conversation next week by calling into the Gridiron Report voicemail for us to play and discuss on the podcast. That phone number is 313-679-39. And then finally, if you like this episode, please take a moment to rate it 5 stars and leave us a review saying so. Make sure you guys are downloading the episodes so we are able to track where our numbers are coming from, what you guys like, what you guys don't like. Again, we have so much that Kyle and I and a few others are working on behind the scenes. Can't wait to bring all that stuff to you guys. But until we do, keep listening. Keep giving us stuff to talk about. We'll talk about Detroit sports until you guys tell us to stop.
Thanks, y'all. Restore the roar.
A journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retired. Grit Iron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on blast, beats thunder and loud. Champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The Gridiron Report where the stories are proud. Tune in, bring the heat, make your fandom a vow. Make your fandom a vow.